It's Christmas. Thank you for riding along on our one-horse open sleigh. Or is it Santa's sleigh headed back to the Northland? Or is it a nice Palomino gelding horse loping through about 3 inches of fresh powdered snow? Or maybe you just ride along in my old pickup truck. Whatever it is, wherever you are, thank you for sharing our Christmas episode. Merry Christmas! My wife and I will spend the day with our oldest daughter and her family. I like spending time with the grandchildren. I do. I wish I could have all 6 of them together today, but it just didn't quite work out that way this year. I'll talk to them, though. Maybe FaceTime them. Our song of the week is Mary Did You Know, written by Mark Lowry and Buddy Green. It was originally recorded by Michael English in 1991. This song is simply asking Mary questions concerning her son Jesus as he is growing up. Others recording this great song are Kathy Mattea, Mark Lowry, Kenny Rogers and Winona Judd, CeeLo Green, Jordan Smith, Pentatonix, Carrie Underwood, and Dolly Parton. Mary, did you know that your baby boy is the Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy will one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy was heaven's perfect lamb, and the sleeping child you're holding is the great I Am? The tradition of decorating Christmas trees started in Germany in the 16th century. Artificial trees were originally goose feathers dyed green attached to a wire for its branches. That beats those plastic things that are all over the carpet for months afterwards for us. Kim vacuums and vacuums, and we still find them. The first Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center was a small undecorated tree placed by construction workers in 1931. Started a tradition. Thomas Edison created the first strand of electric lights in 1880. They hung outside his New Jersey office on Christmas. Since it's Christmas, it made me melancholy, and it always does, you know. Kind of excited, but in different ways than when I was a kid. And it always transports me back for a while to when I was a kid with my mom and my dad and my brothers and my sister and all the things leading up to Christmas and Christmas morning in my family. As hard-nosed as my dad seemed to be for me when I was growing up, as I remember him now in the autumn of my life, he did a lot for the family for Christmas. He always supplied the Christmas tree. Later on, when I was probably a teenager, he got an aluminum tree with a color wheel, changed the colors. And we had that for a few years before they went back to an original blue spruce or Fraser fir or one of those, you know. He decorated our house, and I know he was afraid of heights, and yet he got up on that ladder and did the eaves of the house every year. I also remember him making Santa and several reindeer and a sleigh out of plywood and painted them and then put them out in the yard with floodlights on them, and it was a spectacular Christmas display. All that stuff were probably 4 foot tall. Santa may have been a little taller. I don't know. Why did he do that if it wasn't for his children? That had to be the reason. So as hard-nosed as I perceived him in my formative years, I think that man was very tender-hearted and always there for us. He did not help decorate the tree in my memory. It was Mom and us kids doing that. And that's okay. He supplied the tree. He put the tree up. All of that. Decorated the house and the yard. His decorations were so fantastic that for several years he won the town prize. There was a little contest. The mayor or councilman or somebody would drive around and check out the Christmas decorations. My little hometown used to put up Christmas lights across the intersections every Christmas. And it was really quite striking for a town back in the 1950s and 60s. That must have been quite striking to drive down Main Street with these lights. Especially up there. It's a winter wonderland up there. There could be 3 feet of snow. And with those lights and the world kind of frozen and quiet and not much moving, it had to be quite beautiful. Well, as you got to 2nd Street, driving down Main Street, if you looked up the hill, there was my folks' house, all lit up for all the world to see. I think that was an extension of my dad's love for his family. I wonder if my children will remember things of my wife and I during Christmas, like I remember my folks. It's hard to say, and I could never ask them that, but I know that there's a treasure chest that overflows of memories of my parents. I just want to take us back for a while now to the Christmas story and how Mary and Joseph had to go to Bethlehem for a census that was being taken by Caesar. That whole country was part of the Roman Empire. And we all know the story of they got to Bethlehem and it was so crowded that there was no room for them in the inn. And so they took up residence in a stable. And that night, Mary gave birth to Jesus. We all know that story, right? How the shepherds came down for the hills. How the wise men brought gold and myrrh and frankincense as gifts to the Christ child. How that Jesus was in the manger and there were small farm animals all around. We all have a nativity scene, have heard the story, and all that stuff. I don't care who you are or where you're from, what religion you may partake in. Everybody knows this story. Well, if you can picture with me that scene, I need to hone in a couple things. First of all, the wise men didn't make it that night. If you don't know that part of the story, if you do some simple research, you can find out that they may have been a year later. It wasn't that they weren't on the quest at the time, but that's okay. That's irrelevant to where I'm going with this. What I want to hone in on is Joseph. Tradition says that Joseph was probably older than Mary, that he possibly could have had a wife before Mary that had passed away. Lifespans weren't very long back then, you know. But if you think about it, this man took Mary in and made her part of his family, even though she became pregnant without his participation. And he believed her because of his character more than anything. He could have just as easily reported her, had her stoned to death. He could have. It would have been very easy. He could have just done away with her. She was a young person. And what was she going to do? Now we all know the story how Gabriel came to Mary and informed her how she was highly regarded and chosen among all women to bear the human Son of God. So Mary had an experience that was quite real, but Joseph had her word on it. Now later, Joseph had proof of all this that Mary had told him by a dream of his own that prompted him to know that the name of this child would be Jesus. He had two such dreams. The second one was the dream to hightail it out of Israel into Egypt because Herod was killing baby boys trying to find the one they were calling the Messiah, Jesus. They say Joseph was a carpenter, and most of us think of him as just some guy that was maybe putting a chair together or a door or something. There wasn't a lot of wood there in that desert country. I've read studies that said that Joseph was perhaps very well off. Others, just like what tradition says, he was just a man trying to get by. We do not know when Joseph passed away, but it was probably before Jesus showed his first miracle, because Joseph wasn't in the scene when he turned water into wine. Where I'm going with this is, even though Mary and Joseph had other children, and so basically Jesus was his stepchild and his brothers were half-brothers, Joseph took Jesus in as one of his own. His love was unconditional. He taught him a trade. He did not come against the boy as he is growing up and starting to know what his real calling in life was. Joseph was a quality man, just like we can be. It's all about our choices in life. Do we choose to condemn and turn our back on someone? Or do we choose to welcome them with open arms, even if they've hurt us? Maybe they need us. Maybe they need us very much. So my favorite character in that whole away in the manger scene is Joseph. And when I think about my dad doing all he did for my mom and us kids, even though he had been through so much himself, my dad was the first person that showed me by example the love of God. And Dad, I appreciate it. I miss you a lot. The Son of God needed a human father, like we all needed a human father. And if for some reason through the course of your life you were denied that for whatever reason, I just encourage you to realize that our Father in heaven can fill that void. It may not be quite the same, but in many miraculous ways, it's more than enough. Merry Christmas. Peace on earth, goodwill toward men. When I was about 13, it was Christmas Eve. It was getting late in the afternoon. My dad said he was going to close early, and he was kind of busy. And he said, Jim, go on home. Help your mom with Christmas. I'll be there as soon as I can get this store closed. So I went out the back door of the new store and started walking towards the alley, and I had to walk right past my dad's pickup. When I was a boy, I had sports games. If I wasn't making it up and playing in the yard or playing down the park with my friends, I had like board games or electric football, or I had this basketball game where you pull back a lever and you could shoot from different areas of the court into the basket. I had several different horse racing game and all this kind of stuff, but I wanted a hockey game. I wanted a hockey game so much. Those little guys, you could slide them back and forth, and it was kind of like a foosball table, only not as advanced. And it didn't have a ball, it had a puck. So when you shot the puck, it might move, 15 inches, 2 feet, and then stop. The hockey rink itself was probably over 3 foot long and a couple feet wide. had these little guys that you slide back and forth, and I wanted that so bad. As I was walking towards the house and walking past my dad's truck, I looked over there, and there's a bunch of boxes and stuff in the back of his truck. It was snowing, and it was peaceful, and it was Christmas Eve. I stopped and I walked over and I looked. I brushed the snow off some of the boxes, and there was the hockey game. I really didn't think I was going to get it. Probably didn't deserve it. I got so excited, and it took everything in me to keep that a secret until Christmas morning. As hard-nosed as my dad was, and as much as he didn't realize, and as much as he didn't agree with sports and sports games and chasing a ball and thinking about Mickey Mantle and all of that, somewhere inside him, he knew my heart. I'm sure he knew me better than I knew myself. Mom and Dad got me that hockey game. And even though I discovered it before Christmas, I was so thankful and acted so surprised. I can't remember what else was in the back of that pickup truck, but it was gifts for all us kids, I'm sure. Shoot, I wasn't interested in what they were getting. I was into getting a hockey game. Great memory for me. A lot better memory than wrecking his truck a couple years later.